Africa, as in the rest of the world, the maritime domain is the lifeblood of the economy and in many cases central to both food security and food sovereignty. We often use the expression "no shipping, no shopping" to emphasize the impact that maritime commerce has on our way of life. Given the incredible volume of trade that occurs by sea, that expression is true for every country around the world, whether literal or landlocked. How we can develop the sector for Africa's prosperity and long-term development are some of the sectoral issues that will be on the front burner on Maritime Radar. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. Beyond what comes into the African ports, a tremendous amount is exported as well. Historically, those exports have been primarily raw materials, gold, diamond minerals, fish, cotton, cocoa, timber, and other agricultural and extractive goods. As manufacturing and exportable craftsmanship sectors expand, the export of finished goods is on the rise. Access to safe, secure maritime transit routes will be vital to the successful integration of those products into the global market. Economically, therefore, the maritime domain is central to Africa's development and prosperity. Imagine fish from Senegal. Before we get further into today's episode, let's find out the latest in maritime news.
The Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Shippers Council, NSC Imanojim, has said that the council, as the seaport's economic regulator, will closely monitor the operations of the Lekki Deep Seaport and ensure that it achieves world standards as it starts operations. He shared his optimism that the seaport will be efficient in all its operations since it will automate its services. The Deep Seaport's operations are expected to go a long way in decongesting the Lagos Seaport and reducing the pressure on every other port in the country. Nigerian Minister of Transportation Muazu Sambo, while facing the Joint National Assembly Committee on Land and Marine Transport, said that the adequate budgetary provision is needed to complete ongoing rail projects across the country to ensure the implementation of the Nigerian Railway Modernization Project. Sambo noted that the railway network was being progressively expanded through yearly budgetary appropriations since the federal government is facing challenges in securing counterpart fundings through loans. Currently, the implementation of the Kaduna, Kano, Port Harcourt, Maiduguri and Kano Maradi segments of the Railway Modernization Project are ongoing with federal government counterpart funding in the 2022 budget. The minister reiterated his hope that the Federal Ministry of Finance would conclude the negotiation of the loans with Chinese, Portuguese and Turkish infrastructure development finance institutions to implement the project. Women's International Shipping and Trading Association WISTA and researchers from the Federal University of Espírito Santo in Brazil have conducted a survey focused on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on women in shipping-based work, family and community life. According to the survey's finding, 61.5% of participants felt that the women demonstrated leadership during the pandemic crisis at work and in their communities. The findings also showed that for the majority of the group, that is 44.81%, household activities increased after the onset of the pandemic. The president of WISTA International, Despina Panagito Theodosio, added that the COVID-19 pandemic was an important and unprecedented event experienced by everyone around the world. Turkish Minister Hulusi Akar said that a total of 6 grain-loaded vessels have left Ukraine's Black Sea port since Moscow ended its suspension of a deal allowing such exports. This brings the total number of vessels from Ukraine to 426, carrying more than 9.7 million tons of grain since the June agreement brokered by Turkey and the UN was put in place. Turkey hopes that the grain agreement deal, which expires on November 19, will help open the path to a ceasefire and peace.
New Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the New Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on New Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Globally, only 15% of women are directly involved in the blue economy. Existing power structures combined with financial and social capital constraints are factors that often limit women's ability to function effectively. As a result, many women working in this sector have limited access to natural resources, credit, technology, training, mobility, and bargaining power. They also face discrimination in rights to land or fishing grounds. The inequality of access to resources greatly undermines women's productivity and results in substantial loss in areas like fisheries. This often leads to negative implications for food security and nutrition. In most African countries, women face cultural biases that exclude them from actual fishing activities and are mostly involved in the processing of the fish. This makes them dependent on fishermen and middlemen, which exposes them to exploitation, unfair market competition, and limited access to fishing resources. Women play a key role in the fisheries and aquaculture value chain, yet their contribution is often overlooked or undervalued. There is a definite need for explicit recognition of what constrains women's contributions to the development of aquaculture in Africa. This requires better documentation and evidence of their participation. There is also need to pay particular attention to involving and evaluating their existing activities for further development. It is imperative to note that investing in fishery activities targeting women and youths can result in better resource management, creation of equal opportunities to decent work, improved livelihood and diet, including reduction of poverty at household level. The impact of climate change on water bodies exacerbates levels of poverty as time spent in search of water accounts for billions in lost economic opportunities. With many rivers drying up, women are most affected because in a majority of African households, they are often responsible for collecting water, increasing the care work burden and leading to less productivity. Preservation and restoration of water towers is critical in ensuring sustainability of rivers and other water bodies. While women form about 50% of the global population, only about 1% are in the seafaring industry. To promote equity, economic growth, responsible production and consumption, social inclusion and the preservation or improvement of livelihoods are important, while ensuring environmental sustainability of water bodies. Investing in activities targeting women and youth can result in better resource management and reduction of poverty at household level. There remains a propensity to overlook women in aquaculture production, even though women are recognized to be the main food crop producers in Africa. The need is to involve more women in the development process, not only in planning and administration, but particularly in extension where direct communication is necessary. To harness Africa's potential in the fishing industry, investment in the sector, including improved infrastructure such as cold storage units, access to markets and financing, or provision of enterprise support for small-scale fishers and preservation of aquatic environment will help increase efficiency and guarantee sustainability of the sector.
This is Maritime Radar. This week's episode is to assess the potentials of African oceans and the opportunities it holds for women. The waters surrounding the continent are vast depositories of natural resources. From fisheries to hydrocarbons, these resources generate valuable revenue to littoral African states. In addition, they are a source of food and employment for millions of Africans. The seas also serve to connect African countries to their neighbors and to the rest of the world. To realize the potential of this blue economy, African states must effectively deal with significant maritime challenges of illegal fishing, marine pollution on our oceans. I spoke to Chiazor, Anishere, SAN, a maritime lawyer on realizing cleaner oceans towards achieving a sustainable blue economy. Stay with us. The scope of interpretation of the term blue economy varies. What will you say is blue economy?
Yes, indeed, the interpretation of the meaning of blue economy varies. The World Bank will define blue economy as a concept whereby the resources of the oceans are utilized whilst keeping the oceans sustainable. Now, I'll rephrase that. The utilization of ocean resources for economic growth, for job creation, livelihood, and also for sustainability of the economic growth without destroying the ocean sustainability. So that's blue economy. So taking from the oceans and ensuring that you retain the sustainability of the oceans. You don't just take the resources from the oceans and you don't sustain the oceans. So blue economy is utilizing the resources from the oceans and ensuring that you sustain the oceans.
So what conversation should we be having around blue economy? Realizing that the resources therein.
Yes, indeed, we should first of all appreciate the benefit of the blue economy, the challenges that there are, and of course we want to look at the way forward.
So what are the challenges you've identified?
Well, there are huge challenges affecting the blue economy sustainability, because it's not that we do have the concept blue economy. Now the challenges, one of the challenges is to sustain this concept known as the blue economy. Now to sustain it is the lack of financial resources. Yes, the paucity of funds, particularly for developing countries, is a great challenge for the sustainability of the blue economy, even to get it to have it implemented in the policies of the developing countries. Nigeria, for example, we have a blue economy policy in our country, but is it implemented? It's not really. So we cannot say, maybe I shouldn't use Nigeria because we can't say paucity of funds is what has affected Nigeria from sustaining the policy on blue economy. No, because Nigeria actually does have the fund, really. So it's probably its lack of understanding the concept of blue economy.
Or do you think we are blind to the blue economy resources? Some say we are blind. We are not blind to the sea resources, but are we blind to the wealth? Because if you understand the wealth of blue economy, we should do something in respect to policy, in respect to implementation, and maybe the political will to implement all those.
But we're not blind to it. I mean, blue economy
so we know
the
there is
oceans.
sea. Okay.
Yes, it's the word blue depicts the oceans. So it's sea economy, marine economy, as it were. The wealth from the marine economy is among us. I mean, we all know trade, for example, 90% of the world trade, it's from the sea leg.
So why are we not tapping the potentials if we know the wealth of blue economy? So
we do tap, but it's to sustain it, so that there's no extinction.
Okay.
That is what blue economy policy is all about. Okay. We do have, in terms of aquaculture, that is fisheries, that's fish farming. We appreciate that. That's one of the benefits of the blue economy, the fact of aquaculture. So we know that fish farming is huge, fish being a great resource for protein for the masses. And also it creates jobs for mostly the women, African women. Most of the women in the coastal areas are into fishing. That is job creation. That is tapping from the blue economy. The sustainability of that is what is our great challenge.
Okay. So what solution will you prefer on regards implementing or sustaining the blue economy?
Yes, indeed. I would look at the models that Kenya is adopting. Happily, the Kenyan government and Seychelles have been recognized as two of the African countries, best African countries, that are really practicing the blue economy sustainability. And of course, we all appreciate that the first Blue Economy Conference, Global Blue Economy Conference that we had was held in Kenya in 2018. So what they have is what they call an action group plan. The action group plan envisages collaboration, which is very key, ensuring that there's a collaboration between African countries towards enlightening these countries, their government, for example, on the benefits of the blue economy and the reason for its sustainability, for job creation, for wealth, for well-being, and it also helps with the environmental protection. I mean, we also what's going on with the floods globally. Climate change, absolutely. These are all fallout from the blue economy, and if we do not sustain, we're going to have all these fallouts. So the action group plan that Kenya, for example, has come up with is that collaboration with other countries, because you can't do it alone. And then innovations, science, skill empowerment, very important. So the science, we need to appreciate that technology must come to play. Data collation, data exchange is also very key.
But how have we fared since 2018 after the Kenya summit?
How have we
fared
as
with
Nigeria?
Yes. Or even Africa. How have we fared?
Well, I think it's a
work in process. The Kenya conference absolutely will have a communique. So how have we fared with the deliberation had in Kenya?
Yes, of course there is a communique. From 2018, in 2019, the African Union Commission decided to appreciate the blue economy concept. And going forward, the African Union Commission has set 2030 as their goal for achieving the African blue economy concept with regards to sustainability. So that's a plus. And the African Union Commission is an umbrella of over 50 African countries. So that's huge. That's one. And two, we've had, there are regular meetings, conferences on blue economy in Africa. Last year, there was one held in Seychelles because Seychelles was declared the winner of the blue economy for Africa. So they were the one that hosted last year's conference. Well, it's a mini conference actually organized by the African Union. So we do have such conferences in African countries in order to synergize with other African. Like I said, collaboration is very key to ensure that we exchange ideas, we exchange knowledge from other African countries on how we can sustain the blue economy.
And from your assessment, you think this has fared well?
It's work in progress. I will say. It's actually work in progress. The blue economy concept is not only related to aquaculture, it also affects the seaports, shipping, maritime trade. And so the seaports must be of international standard. Blue economy is actually supporting or assisting the greener economy, greener shipping, absolutely. And you now know that the IMO has been conversing for greener shipping, the decarbonizing.
You want to say something on that?
Well, yeah.
Do you think the 2050 goal is achievable?
It is indeed achievable. The world is being sensitized on that. Everybody's going green, having to have lower carbon in the ships, not only the fact of the ballast water. Now there's a lot of sensitization that the carbon should be, the bunker, the fuel for ships should have less sulfur. There'll be less carbon, in the air. That's really cute.
Okay.
I mean, in the waters, that's really cute. So when we don't pollute the waters, when there's less pollution of the oceans, we can now talk about the blue economy. So those are the benefits.
Okay, moving away from that and looking at insecurity, how does that affect the potentials of the blue economy?
Insecurity as opposed to security, yes indeed. Yeah, where there is no security, for example, the Gulf of Guinea, that's where we have the issues of piracy and armed robbery at sea. So when we have security challenges, as we do have in the Gulf of Guinea, it will affect the blue economy because it will affect the seafarers from manning the ships. And these ships help to export these goods. The manning of ships is job creation for the millions of seafarers who go on board these vessels. These ships move cargo from one country to another. So you can just imagine the fallout if there's no security. There will be a standstill. There will be some kind of choke in trade. There will be no jobs for the seafarers. So it's just going to be a chain of, how do I put it? Like a Holocaust. So the security of the coast of the oceans, how about the Gulf of Guinea or any of the oceans, plays a very paramount role in sustaining the blue economy.
You were the Continental President of WIMAFRICA. What did you do during your tenure? Because when you look at blue economy, you find that is one place for women. What did you do, or what did WIMAFRICA do to harness the potentials of this blue economy and open up opportunities, maybe mentorship, sensitization, to African women on the opportunities they have in blue economy?
We did a lot during my tenure. Actually, one of the mission statements of the African Women in Maritime, otherwise known as WIMAFRICA, is to help to sustain Africa's blue economy, the emphasis on Africa. Although I remember some years back in Kenya when I had to attend a conference on blue economy, and there was this white gentleman who was one of the panelists said, there's only one ocean. There's no African ocean and there's no English ocean and all that. So when we talk about African oceans, African blue economy, he seemed to be opposing that fact of tagging it to be an African ocean. But anyway, that's how it is. So what has WIMAFRICA done? WIMAFRICA has done a lot. We started with what we call the down-up concept, a bottom-up approach to achieving the sustainability of the blue economy. By bottom-up approach, what I mean is that we started by sensitizing the women in the coastal areas from our various chapters, because we appreciate that the coastal area also play a very vital role in sustaining the blue economy. There's a need for them to appreciate that the oceans must be kept clean. The debris in the oceans should be removed, should not be allowed, because if they pollute the oceans with the debris, the plastics that we find, they will kill the fishes. They become toxic to the organisms in the water, the aqua organisms in the oceans, and that will be not safe for human consumption and many more. So we started from the bottom-up approach, sensitizing the women in the coastal areas. In Angola, for example, aquaculture is very key. One of our vice president, WIMAFRICA, she still is a member of the World Aquaculture Society, Francesca Delgado. She has been with WIMAFRICA, and I'd like to say that WIMAFRICA set her up in the pace, and today she's playing a very critical role, particularly for the women in Angola in terms of aquaculture, training the women on fish farming, which is very important. So this is what WIMAFRICA does. It's not only in Angola, we have it in Cameroon, back home here in Nigeria, we also do that. Kenya is also playing the role. And other African countries are learning from that. Again, for WIMAFRICA, we ensure that we sensitize our women to clean the beaches. That's like a regular program, thank you, for WIMAFRICAN national chapters, cleaning the beaches, clearing the beaches, getting the neighborhood to appreciate that cleaner oceans, cleaner beaches will be good for tourism. Water tourism will be good for job creation, will be good for wealth, health, and what have you. So we do clean the beaches as well. Any wonder why WIMAFRICA won as the first NGO, female NGO, to win the World Blue Economy African Union Award in 2018 in Kenya?
It's been a bottom-up approach in sensitizing the African women towards a cleaner ocean and a sustainable blue economy. Those are the words of Jean Chiazor Anishere, SAN. She is a maritime lawyer and the former Continental president of Women in Africa. Many thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Nneoma.
And this is where we draw the curtain on this week's episode. Every week, join us on Maritime Radar as we explore how Africa can unlock the latent potentials of its maritime industry and its connected sector. You can also expect the latest in maritime news and industry insights right here. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. Many thanks for watching.